All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the second edition of our online engagements at Ruach. My name is Winston PMO2, and I will be moderating this session where we will be talking about accessing medium and long-term business finance. You would all agree with me, those of us on this call, that many people have ideas that are excellent. Some of them have properly documented these ideas into bankable business plans. Some people are also running successful small businesses. And with more funding, these businesses could grow into medium and even large scale organizations. The common challenge to the aforementioned scenarios is access to the needed funding, be it long-term or medium-term. So this morning we have representatives from two major institutions that have made developing our economy and creating better access to finance a priority. We have representing the Director of Development Finance of the Central Bank, Amina Suwaid. We also have here the Chief Operating Officer of the Development Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Bonaventure Ohaimo.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Now with me on the moderating panel, members of my faculty, we have Halima Raji.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. We have Jay Ugu.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Glad to be here on the Ruach Forum.
Thank you. We have Mr. Femi Joshua.
Good morning, everybody. I'm delighted to be part of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And finally, we have Dr. Victor Oshadare. He is somewhere in the room and he will be joining us as we proceed. Now, before we go any further, I would want to perhaps formally introduce Ruach to you with a short video to tell you about us, what we do, and how we could partner with you to get your business, your organization, and your idea to where it wants to be. Can I have the technical team play the Ruach video? Just 2 minutes.
Welcome all our online audience, both in Nigeria and all around the world, to the first meeting of Ruach series powered by Ruach NG, a digital subsidiary of Ruach Agribusiness Consortia. You might ask, who are we? What do we do? And how do we do what we do? Ruach Consortia is a sustainable development organization that has, over the years, leveraged on its technical and strategic partnership in developing value to various clients in the area of agribusinesses, strategy, investment, energy, policy, and is duly registered in Nigeria. A team with decades of experience working with various partners and subsidiaries over the last 3 years have directly facilitated about $2 million in financing across various agricultural value chain. Our strategic drive and operation cuts across the design and implementation of development programs, design of integrated agricultural projects, investment structuring, infrastructure development design, management and financial solution, and project management. Ruach Engine is a digital forum for delivering strategic solution and value, providing platform for experts to be engaged, facilitate capacity building and professional development, enable deal sourcing and trade facilitation, all in order to enable everyone to put knowledge into practice in creation of value. Once again, we would like to welcome you to this series and hope to make every minute you spend with us count. You can follow us on our Twitter handle. You can like us on our Facebook, follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn. Thank you for staying with us.
All right, thank you very much, the technical team, and good morning, everyone, once again. For those of us who are just joining, you're welcome to the Ruach NG platform, where we will be talking about access to long and medium-term finance for business. We have two representatives from two leading institutions in Nigeria who will be speaking to this subject, sharing with us the role their respective organizations are playing in ensuring that business people within the shores of our country get the proper access to finance that they need to kickstart their businesses or expand their businesses, all in an effort to increase the economic viability of our dear country. Now, I would want to start with the lady. As a gentleman, I want to go with lady first. Mrs. Amina Suwaid. I would like her to speak to us, to introduce herself to us and speak to us on the role of central bank, share her opening thoughts on the subject. And if you have presentations, we will enable you share your screen so that you could share your slides if you have any. If not, over the next 5 to 7 minutes, kindly give us your opening thoughts on the subject.
I have to just make them co-host.
Amina Suwaid.
All right, hello.
Oh, you've been unmuted.
Hello, everyone. Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Can
Do
you
you have a
hear me
slide
now?
to share?
Yes,
We
we
can
can.
hear you.
No, we don't
Yeah,
have
good
any
morning.
slide.
All right, so
Yeah,
let's hear
good
you.
morning. Go ahead. What can I hear?
All right, good. It's good to be here. Some of the, part of the discussion here is probably as was introduced by the administrator. The CBN, as everybody knows, that's the Central Bank of Nigeria, has made tremendous effort to contribute to the economy of the nation. And partly what the CBN does is to ensure that there's financial system stability, there's price stability, there's apart from that, there's money where there is financing, where financing is required, just for the economy to be able to be boosted and then move forward. And in terms of that, the Central Bank of Nigeria has actually done a couple of interventions. These interventions have from what we have seen from our statistics, they have tremendously improved the economy, and they have impacted on the sectors that they're meant for. And having said that, I forgot to introduce myself very well. I am Mrs. Amina Swede. I'm representing the Director of the Development Finance Department of the Central Bank of Nigeria. I am the head of the Public Advocacy Unit in the department. So, and it's nice to be here. So, thank you.
Thank you most kindly, Mrs. Suwaid. Thank you for that succinct introduction. I believe that we have questions that will allow you to elaborate on the role of Central Bank's Development Finance Department. I'd like to ask those of us who are not speaking to kindly mute your microphones to avoid interference. Let us allow resource persons have the floor and let them speak to us without any interruption. Secondly, I also want to inform us that if you have any questions, we'll have a time to ask your questions. Before now, some questions had been sent in, and our faculty members sieved through the questions and merged some of them together. As we go along, some of our faculty members will be reading out the questions to the panelists. But if you have questions that will be outside these, you could either send them as a message to us, we will read them on your behalf, or we will give you the floor to speak towards the end of the program. Now let us hear opening thoughts of the Chief Operating Officer of the Development Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Bonaventure Ohaimo.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Once again,
Good morning.
Thank you for having me today. Good morning to Amina, my regulator. My pleasure to be presenting with you in the room. I would love to share my screen so that
By
I
all
can
means.
quickly go through the presentation that I have.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
We can.
Okay, good. All right.
Can you make it a presentation?
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, fine. So I'll quickly go through it. I need to introduce Development Bank of Nigeria, what we do. I won't be boring you with our vision and mission, but just to let you know that we have the vision to be Nigerian primary development finance institution, promoting growth and sustainability. You go through our mission and core values and everything, you continuously see the word sustainability through it. And that is one of the major things we pride ourselves about. When you talk about DBN was conceived by the federal government of Nigeria, and mainly to look at alleviating all the challenges that MSMEs face in Nigeria. I won't go into all the definition or all the challenges because I believe I'm speaking to people in the room that already understand and know what MSMEs are involved with and the challenges they face. Our partners include, like I said earlier, the federal government of Nigeria, AFD, which is the French Development Bank, KfW, which is the German Development Bank. We also have the World Bank, we have the African Development Bank as well. We were set up in 2014, although we started fully around 2017, by March specifically, when we obtained our license from the Central Bank of Nigeria. Our cooperation started in November 2017. So what's our role in promoting access to finance for MSMEs? So basically, we have 3 mandates. And the first mandate is that of wholesale lending. We don't lend directly. We are the only wholesale development finance institution in Nigeria. So all our lending is done through participating financial institutions. We currently have 27 of them, and we are increasing this number on a daily basis. As at end of last year, we've disbursed over 123 billion in loans through these PFIs. We've impacted about 100,000 MSMEs that have benefited for this loan. Our loans are also focused on long term. So we have a maximum of a 10-year loan tenure for the MSMEs. Our second mandate is that of risk sharing. To enable us carry out this risk sharing mandate, we've set up a wholly owned subsidiary we call Impact Credit Guarantee Company. Impact will share the risk with the PFIs, currently up to 60%, but we're increasing this to 75% in the next few months. And we also have what we call the technical assistance and capacity building. Technical assistance is to these PFIs to upscale their ability and capacity to understand MSME risk and then, of course, lend more to them. We also do capacity building for MSMEs themselves. We realize that MSMEs don't have the technical skills to understand how to manage their books. We know that most MSMEs cannot even afford employing an accountant for themselves. So what we do is to try and see how we can build their capacity. We've done a lot of training through EDC, that's the Entrepreneurship Development Center of the Lagos Business School. We've also developed a mobile business app, which will aid the MSMEs to run their operations, the business aid app want you to act like an accountant for the MSMEs. So specifically, our facilities, which I know is going to come up later on, but just to quickly run through it, our loans are basically two types: investment loans and working capital loans. So investment loans are up to 10 years. Minimum obligor limit for the MSMEs is 200 million, but we've also added what we call the small corporate. Small corporate have up to 720 million, and we also will grant you a moratorium of 18 months. Working capital is up to 3 years, 72 million for obligor limit for the MSMEs and 288 million for the small corporate, with a moratorium of up to 6 months. But you need to understand that all of these that I'm saying are the eligibility criteria for the MSMEs. So the MSMEs will still have to go to their PFIs, who will in turn review their credit and then come to us. Now, who are these MSMEs? We made our definition very short and easy to follow. MSMEs, we expect them to be people that are employing less than 250 employees with an annual turnover of less than 1.125 billion. Total assets of less than 1.125 billion. For small corporates, these are people that will be employing less than 500 employees, annual turnover and assets of less than 5.4 billion. Okay, so our products currently, we have 2 products and we are developing more. So the first product we've just developed, because we realized that the fact that we need to encourage financial inclusion, and we began a lot of people coming to us and say, hey, I don't want to do an interest banking product. I want a non-interest bank. And we also have non-interest banks that we've not been able to onboard. So what have we done? We've gotten approval to deploy a non-interest banking product, which is going to be targeted at banks like Jais, Ties Bank, and I think Sterling Bank also have a non-interest desk. So that would solve the issue around NIB products. Then we also have what we call a finance to finance product. There are some financial intermediaries and financial NGOs, like the ones I have listed here, that we cannot deal with directly, because part of our regulations by the Central Bank of Nigeria is that a wholesale DFI must onboard PFIs that are also licensed and regulated by the Central Bank of Nigeria. So some of these financial NGOs are not licensed by the federal government, by the central bank rather. They are licensed by various state governments or Ministry of Trade and Commerce and all of that. So to avoid this, we've come up with a product where we then encourage them to then go to their PFIs and then come to us through those PFIs. And if we want to look at our performance quickly, as at 2017 when we started, we just had only 200 million in disbursement to just 3 PFIs, microfinance bank then, and just had 296 MSMEs and borrowers. But by the end of 2018, we had gone up to 31.2 billion in disbursement to about 35,000 MSMEs. So end of 2019, we've disbursed 133 billion, 100,722 MSMEs. We currently have 27 PFIs onboarded. And from the disbursement we've done, we had our initial pioneer monitoring and evaluation exercise that we did. And from the exercise, it was found that we created over 59,000 jobs from the various MSMEs that we've worked with. So basically, that's all. I really don't want to, I think maybe I can stop here. But just to quickly share that the process for getting a loan is straightforward. You have to go to your PFI. They have to do their credit assessment, and then they come to us. And typically, we disburse our loans within 2 days. Let me stop here. Thank you very much for having me, and I'm open to.
Thank you most kindly, Mr. Bonner. He said he would want to be referred to as Mr. Bonner. Thank you most kindly for this introduction. I think you've covered quite a lot of bases, and I did say that we had questions already that our team members had sieved through. So we will dive right in. I will start by recognizing Dr. J. Ugu. I believe he has some questions for Mrs. Wade and Mr. Ohaimo. So let's start with Dr. J. Dr. J, are you in the house? Dr. J.
Okay, yes, thank you, Mr. Winston.
Thank you very much.
So glad to be here. And then having had Mr. Bona, I hope we're free to call him that, talk to us about in fact, I've gleaned a lot of insights already, because prior to this point, there are so many things I didn't know about, the Development Bank of Nigeria. But I would like to start with Hajia Amina Suede. I have just a couple of questions to, so that she can elaborate more for us on what the Development Finance Department of the CBN is actually all about. A lot of times we hear about these institutions and we really do not have a handhold on what exactly they do, and then as operators of MSMEs, how we can maximally benefit from their operations. So I would like you to shed more light on the, is it a bouquet of services like, Mr. Bonner told us about a wholesale lender. Wow, I think I'm also hearing that for the first time. There are wholesale lenders and then there are retail lenders. So what exactly does, the DFD of the CBN do to help MSMEs access financing?
Thank you for the question. Over the years, the bank has used its developmental functions, which is actually enshrined in the Central Bank of Nigeria Act, to probably intervene in some sectors, such as the agricultural sector, the infrastructure, real sector, all this, the SMEs, all of them for their development. The bank has, in order for the bank to intervene in these sectors, the bank has introduced quite a number of interventions. And the central bank, in intervening in some of these sectors, does not give loans directly to individuals or to companies or to corporates. What the central bank does is actually, let me say it like something like, if it is, let's say, it gives those financing to banks or PFIs. The PFIs mean participating financial institutions, because some of these institutions don't participate in some of our interventions. So it gives those loans to those participating financial institutions, and those institutions now give now on lend to their customers. To their customers. So the Development Finance Department is the department that is in charge of overseeing that the bank does its developmental function in such a way that it is very transparent, it is accountable. The Development Finance Bank is let's say, like the mirror of the bank in terms of its developmental function. And like I said, this developmental function is enshrined in the CBN Act, particularly Section 31, and it's meant to probably develop the economy, profile the economy, make it better than it currently is. And for the CBN, because of the fact that the CBN is a regulator of the banks, it oversees financial system stability, price stability. You know that some of these things cannot happen without the developmental function, because if you're looking at financial system stability, soundness of the financial system, you're looking at price stability, you have to ensure that some things are actually in place, such as maybe access to financing. Because if access to financing is not in place, then how would you guarantee that your financial system would be stable? Part of what the bank does, and why I'm very passionate about it, is because it's very dynamic in a way, in such a way that without the developmental function, whatever the CBN does in terms of price stability, financial system stability, will not actually be properly seen, because that sector itself, the developmental function, the developmental role of the CBN has to now be married with the soundness of the financial system. So CBN has taken a very passionate step towards ensuring that the developmental function or its developmental role is also felt, and it has taken it religiously, and it has taken it so deeply that most of our attention currently, like the policy thrust of the CBN now, most of it is actually on those interventions. And I'm glad to say that having done that in the past, it was not easy for us during this COVID-19 to see that, okay, we have actually successfully, so because I would actually say successfully, given some form of intervention for COVID-19 relief, just to probably maybe douse the impact of that COVID-19 in the economy. There's one that we've given for the households, which is meant to be assessed by small businesses up to, I think, a certain limit, 5 million or 10 million, I think. And then there's also the one that we are doing now, which we felt is actually very critical for the health sector. So now that one for the health sector is meant to initiate and to ginger pharmaceutical companies, laboratories, medical clinics, hospitals to go into research. That's for those that actually have that license to go into research, bring up innovations, so that at least we can move a step ahead from where we are. So now part of what we have done in that health sector is to ensure that, okay, see, if you have a lab, because we know that in this COVID times we need testing. If you have a lab and you know that you need equipment in your lab, simply apply to the central bank through a PFI, certainly, which is the participating financial institution. And naturally, this eligibility criteria that we've set out eligibility criteria for all these loans. Naturally, for the eligibility criteria, you ought to ensure that, well, one ought to ensure that he or she meets those criteria. And then having met the criteria, the bank would assess. Now, at the end of the day, I would always want to always say that the CBN is not does not really assess loans, so to speak, because what the CBN does, excuse me.
Yeah, CBN doesn't give loans directly to MSMEs,
yes,
right?
It doesn't give that. Yes,
Okay.
so it's just for us to know that CBN doesn't give loans directly. Sometimes we hear that people say they applied, but then nothing was done. But then it's not like nothing was done. Probably because there's eligibility criteria for those loans, and the banks also have to have their own risk acceptance criteria, which the central bank, as a regulator of that financial system, knows that, okay, those risk acceptance criteria for those banks have to be in place and they have to be properly followed. So all these things they have to be married for us to move. So at the end of the day, I would like to, what the CBN would like to see is an economy that has developed beyond where it currently is. It's an economy that has used because we have actually loans for the SMEs, is an economy that has used the SMEs to develop, because there's a lot of potential in that area. And in that regard, I know we have quite a number of interventions. Some of the interventions that we have is there are some for microfinance and youth development. We have interventions that finance the agricultural value chain, and then development, and then food security. We have those that finance infrastructural development for sustainable growth, obviously. And then we have those that finance the manufacturing sector for export stimulation. And then we have what we call enhancing financial inclusion, which we believe without enhancing financial inclusion, without financial literacy, whatever we speak about would actually be, at the end of the day, almost, let me just say, like almost not a waste of time completely, but then
okay, thank you, Matt. Thank you, Matt. We really appreciate that insight you have given us. And then I guess there are a lot of takeaways from what you have said so far, essentially the fact that CBN does not interface directly with MSMEs. So as MSME operators, we're expected to go through our participating PFIs and then apply to them. So I'm sure a lot of other questions are going to come forward, especially with respect to, okay, so how do we ensure that if we go to the PFIs, we're able to get these loans and funds that are already available. So I would want to quickly go to Mr. Bonaventure to actually shed more light, because you in your intro, you had reeled out a number of funds that are available, that are made available from the DBN to the DFIs, to the PFIs. So my question now will be, how do we, as an MSME, this is the first time I'm having an interaction with you, for instance. So how do I now go to my bank and then maybe ask them? I was in a session with this chief operating officer of DBN, and then it says so and so funds available. How do I access them? How do I walk into my bank and then practically make sure that I get this? Because a lot of times we found out that most times, well, I wouldn't say the bank sits on them, but there are a lot of bureaucracies, there are a lot of protocols that, even though there are good policies, good intentions from maybe CBN and the DBN, we are not able to access them as MSME operators. So I don't know if you can shed more light so that we can have something to walk to the banks and then ask them to act on our request and then give us funding to run our businesses.
Okay, thank you very much. So the first part of your question is, how do the MSME approach the bank, to get financing? Now, it's not all banks that are PFIs. Some banks don't want to be PFIs. Some banks are also not qualified to be PFIs. Like I said, we have to follow the Central Bank of Nigeria regulations that define who is qualified to be a PFI. Okay, so the first step will be for the MSMEs to, if you go to our website, you'll see the list of PFIs that are currently accredited. So we are trying to expand that PFI list, because on a day-to-day basis, part of my job is reaching out to these banks and ensuring that they come on board. Okay, so we currently have 33. As of last year, we had 27, we currently have 33. So once you approach those banks, you ask for a DBN loan. The banks have various sources of funds which they will give out. They're like what Madam Amina had already said. They have funds from Central Bank, which they give out at different rates. They have funds from even other development partners as well. So we are also a development finance institution, and we are available to provide funds to them, but solely for the purpose of financing MSMEs. So we won't give them funds to finance large corporates or multinational corporates. And I've also given you a description of who would qualify to be an MSME. But the challenge we have is the fact that because the bank bear the credit risk, they also have to assess the MSME capacity to utilize the amount of money they are going to get and also pay back, because the PFI must pay DBN at the end of the day. If we don't get repayments back, we will not be able to be sustainable. And that's why I said, if you look at our mission, vision, everything all about us, that word sustainability is always there. Our source of funding is not from the federal government, it's not from intervention funds, it's from debt. So we borrow from the World Bank, we borrow from all other development partners, and we repay them every time. So for us to continuously have enough money to repay, we need to ensure that we are also paid. And that's why we have to go through those banks that are willing to take that risk of the MSME on our behalf and then get repayments. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Mr. Winston, are you there?
Thank you very much, Dr. J.
Oh, okay.
All right, thank you so much. I think we've had very fruitful discussions at this point. Let me invite Haja Halima. Halima, are you in the room?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
So my first question will be for Mrs. Amina. In her introduction, she mentioned about the activities of the Development Finance Department of the CBN, that they identify key sectors of the economy that are critical to the growth and development of the economy. And as such, special interventions have been introduced by the CBN to serve as catalyst for the growth and development of these sectors. So I would like her to speak on The special intervention programs are available for sectors such as the energy, agribusiness, businesses operating in the NGO, as well as processors, either greenfield or brownfield processors. And for businesses operating along these sectors, which of this special intervention is a great fit for them to apply to? Mrs.
Thank you,
Amina,
Halima.
okay.
Yes. I wouldn't call them special intervention per se. Sorry if I said that in the past. It's they're just interventions. The interventions that were established for some of these companies. I want to just bring up the companies that you spoke about for some of the sectors. Okay, you said for agribusiness, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. For the agribusiness, we have what we call the Ag SMIAS. It's actually meant for the agribusinesses. It's an intervention by the central bank that has been transferred to the NISL Microfinance Bank. And as the name suggests, it's actually for agribusinesses. We have other interventions, such as the Real Sector Support Facility, which is meant for the real sector financing. We have for the energy, we have the Power Airline Intervention Facility. It's also there. And depending on the company that is applying, the eligibility criteria is listed in the guidelines that established those interventions. Yeah. And then I think you said something about trolling, right?
Yes, for
Okay.
those still
Trolling
under
businesses.
agribusiness.
Yes, actually, surprisingly, I wanted to really talk about trolling because surprisingly, there's part of what the bank is doing is to ensure that it focuses on fish as a commodity. So now for that ocean trawling, the bank, well, for now we have not brought up framework, but it is our desire to even bring up a framework irrespective of what is under agribusiness, because we're looking at even large scale where it goes beyond what agribusiness loan can actually carry. That agribusiness loan that we have is called the AGSMIAS, that Agribusiness Small and Medium Enterprises Intervention Scheme. And so that's the full name for that intervention. So for the ocean trawling, what we've realized over time is that there's a lot of forex being spent by the bank on fish as a commodity. So what the bank now said is, why can't we look inwards? Is it that we don't eat? Well, we eat fish because from the statistics we can see that we're spending a lot of forex on fish. So why don't we look inwards and see what we can do? It's also part of that. Okay, surprisingly, the per capita income consumption for fish surprisingly is low for a developing nation. Surprisingly, it's actually very low. And seeing that it's low, we decided to say, okay, let's look inwards. This type, is it that we don't like this fish that we have in Nigeria? Is it that mala and the rest that's coming that are being imported more, the palate is, maybe people have more palate for that? What is actually the cause? So we are now at a point where we're trying to look at the causes for less consumption of what we probably have in Nigeria, or the let's say the low per capita income consumption of fish for a developing nation. We're trying to look at that. We're trying to look at the causes, but eventually, when the framework is out, God willing, part of what the bank is intends to do is to actually intervene in that sector, and when the intervention comes out, it's probably just going to be for that, for that sector. So I just let me wrap it up by saying that this is something that is not out yet, but actually is one of the things that the bank is looking at doing, because we feel that we should do more in terms of this trolling and things like that.
So I'm happy that the CBN is actually working towards having a framework for the trolling business, and the economy will benefit as a whole from that intervention.
Yeah,
So
it's not just for the trolling business, it's actually for the fish. For fish,
Okay.
we want to see that fish as a commodity is also, let's say, it's also maybe it's not well accepted, but it's also something that the bank also intervenes on as a commodity. Just the way we're intervening in rice, we're doing a lot on rice. Everybody knows that. We're doing rice. We've done cotton. We're still doing it. Cassava, quite a number of them. We're doing them. So the bank is also interested in fish as a commodity. And all this is just for us to enrich our nation, create more employment, make people better than they are, improve the per capita income, and then probably maybe in the future, look at ourselves and say we could actually have done it and we did it.
Okay, thank you so much for the clarification. My second question will be for Mr. Bonaventure. Okay, so in his introduction, he mentioned one of the activities or services performed by Development Bank of Nigeria is the provision of credit risk guarantee services for MSMEs to enable them borrow loans from PFIs, that's the participating financial institutions. I would like him to speak about what businesses need to know in order to access this service, in terms of what's the guarantee cap? Does it come as an additional cost to the business? Is it going to increase the cost of fund to the MSME? And for the business to be able to access this credit risk guarantee, what type of asset class do they need to bring in? Or what type of asset class is accepted by the bank in order to provide this service?
Okay, thank you very much, Madam. So to talk about credit risk guarantee, the guarantee is provided to the PFIs to enable them provide financing for MSMEs. Why I keep saying that we are doing this for PFIs, because I know someone that accused me once that we seem to be set up to support banks. The truth of it is that there's no amount of money that a government would have, that the federal government of Nigeria or even CBN will have, that will solve the financing requirements of MSMEs. MSMEs like today, we know there are over 41 million of them. The financing gap is in excess of trillions of naira. The government does not have that kind of money. So what do we do? The truth of it still remains. The people that are supposed to finance MSMEs are commercial banks and microfinance banks. And if they are not interested in financing these MSMEs, we are not going to see the required development that we want. So what do? Whatever it is to incentivize them, to encourage them to finance these MSMEs, we are willing to do it. And that's part of the reason why we set up the credit risk guarantee company. Now, we're also interested in startups. Many banks are not interested in startups. So and that's what the guarantee will do for you. So we are telling the banks, we are doing technical assistance for the banks. In fact, we're going to start a pilot TA program for about 5 banks this month. And we are telling them, please fund more MSMEs. There's a credit risk guarantee that will reduce your cost. So the cost of assessing a guarantee, the MSME is actually not supposed to pay more. Because the truth of it is that the guarantee is helping the PFI. It's reducing the cost of the PFI to do business. So even in terms of provisioning, in terms of what we call, for people that are financial experts here, you have to have expected credit losses under IFRS 9. Your expected credit losses would also reduce by the fact that you have a guarantee instrument that is supporting that lending. Because the banks will always complain that MSME risk is very high. So by the time we provide a guarantee, which I said now, it used to be 6, we now want to make it 75%. What is left? The risk that is left for that bank to take is just 25%. So whatever asset, whatever security the MSME have, at least it's just going to be for 25%. And we believe that the fact that we're also encouraging banks to go to NCR, that's the National Collateral Registry, that was also set up by the Central Bank of Nigeria. Most of our PFIs, we have taken them to NCR, and we are putting a lot of assets there. So we are talking about movable assets. So we believe that all of this would help MSMEs get more access to finance than they used to have at a reduced cost. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You really made my day by saying that you're actually supporting startups. It's one of the very difficult segments to get financing for, because all you have is an idea, and it's very difficult for you to show traction and convince the banks that you can actually do this. So I'm really happy to hear that. Thank you very much, sir. So my final question will be for Mrs. Amina. We have people who intend to finance asset acquisition of existing equipment, processing plants, or even access operating costs for their businesses, for raw materials and feedstock. So can you speak to us the dynamics of how this can be actualized?
Well, when you spoke about the dynamics, I'm laughing because you know, for this really it's the banks, the PFIs. Let me just say the PFIs. Those are the participating financial institutions that can actually give them those dynamics, because, like we've said earlier, there's a lot of banks believe that when there's issue of credit risk, they should ensure that they have their risk acceptance criteria accurately in place or properly in place. So in terms of this dynamics, I would say that it's actually for them, that's for the proposed or potential loan beneficiaries to go to their banks and speak with their banks and get things sorted for them. Yes. But it's actually the banks that are in a better position to give this dynamics. Because for us, what we do is just probably trying to bring up an eligibility criteria. Okay, this is who would apply, this is the target group. And then even for the PFIs, we now say, okay, you are eligible when you have this or when you do this or when you do that. But then at the end of the day, when it comes to the nitty-gritty, looking at the client, the customer, and saying that you're qualified for this loan or you can access this loan and this is how you can access it, it's actually the banks or the PFIs that would be able to say, okay, this are the dynamics.
Okay. Okay. I just want to chip in situations where you go to these PFIs and you feel you're not getting value or service that you think you should, what are the steps that you can take, or how can we reach out to CBN? You know, you have all these plans, and if the PFIs are not really, you know, enabling you to achieve these objectives, so what are the options that we have?
Well, the CBN has what we call the Consumer Protection Department. If you believe that it's something that is tilted towards maybe discrimination, or maybe you have actually done it and you're tossed around, or you believe that the services are not even accurate, or they are not effective, or they're not adequate enough, then the person can actually write to the Consumer Protection Department. Even if the person writes to the Development Finance, the person can also write to the Development Finance Department, which is my department, and then complain about it. If it's something that we see has merit, would obviously advise.
Pick it up.
Yes, exactly. And even if it's something that we see has gone beyond us, it's probably needs more probing, we'll most likely send it to our Consumer Protection Department to see, okay, what's happening there. You know, check this bank, see that it's the things are done correctly, you know, things like that. Yeah, we would the person can actually write to us.
Okay, thank you.
Right, to either Consumer Protection or even the Development Finance Department, saying that, okay, we are the administrators of those interventions.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time. I'll hand over back to Winston now.
All right, thank you very much, Halima, for those engaging questions. I have particularly gleaned from the wisdom of these lady and gentleman. A few people have asked questions. Most of them have been answered already. Someone talked about a feedback mechanism from the development bank. Someone is also calling out a bank that he or she had sent an email to and is yet to get a response. One thing that I've gotten from this, especially from Mr. Bonner, from the development bank's perspective, is development bank does not give out the loans directly. As such, you don't set out the terms and conditions or the requirements for the loans. You work with the PFIs who disburse these loans, so they will process the credits. Am I correct, Mr. Bonner?
Correct.
Oh, great. So if you have any questions with regards to how to access the loan, you should go to the website and you will find the list of PFIs that will, and you can reach out to them. Then if you feel that you are not being treated well, can you come back to the DBN, or do we write to the Consumer Protection Department of the CBN?
Okay, so let me quickly address that now. We also have the feedback mechanism, right? So what have we done? We have created what we call the DBN Service Ambassador Scheme, right, program. So we have service ambassadors in every of these banks that we work. We've not gotten around all of them, but we started with like about 6 or 7 of them. And we have like 2 or 3 people who have come into DBN. They've spent like 2 or 3 days at DBN. They understand the way we work. They understand everything. So they are the go-to people at the various banks. So if there are issues, those people will then try and resolve it at their various banks. Again, we have on our website, we have the contact details of the rep of every bank that's involved with DBN. So if you go to a bank, for instance, the guy that said he went to, I think was it GT or so, or UBA, and has not been able to get any response. If you do an email directly to the contact on our website, there are 2 names there. Those people should be able to address his concern. If he's still not able to get a concern, he can do an email to us at info@devbankng.com. We'll definitely respond. So responding means we'll get back to the person and say, okay, we are looking into this, and we'll get back to the bank. We'll speak to our service ambassador. We'll speak to the relationship manager, and then find out what the issues are. Of course, we encourage them to explain to their customers why they cannot give them facilities if they can't. And if they can, what they need to do to get those facilities. But like you also pointed out, CBN consumer protection is always there for everybody that has a bank account. Thank you.
All right. Just before I let you go, Mr. Bonner, do we have any, I am particularly passionate about agribusiness. Are there any particular interventions in the area of agribusiness? And also, following that, someone is asking, what supports do we have for asset acquisition?
Okay, so like you, I'm also passionate about agribusiness. We all like to eat now. So my brother, there's no way, there's no way we will not support. Okay, but despite the fact that we are sector agnostic, so that means that we only like to focus on MSME. So whatever you're doing, as long as you're MSME, we support you. But agri is very dear to us. And we try to encourage the banks to bring in agricultural loans as well, when necessary. To date, we have financed through the PFIs, about 11 billion naira in agri loans. Remember, we started in 2017. We've done about 11 billion. And then when you talk about asset acquisition, of course, yes, we do that. We are developing products every day that will help the PFIs to learn. And remember what I said, we are commencing a technical assistance program whereby we have employed a world-renowned consultant that will go to these banks, sit with them for a period of 18 months, and then let them understand what the MSME needs, and also allow them to do what we call cash flow lending, as against insisting on security or assets. And then we're also looking at women-led entrepreneurs, you know, a whole lot of agricultural loans and all of that. So we are looking at all of that. So we believe that is a journey that we have commenced. And as at the end of, before the end of next year, we'll see a lot more improvement in the way the MSMEs are getting financing in Nigeria. And then don't forget that central bank too. They have been flogging the banks. Think of the LDR. Go give her money, go give her money. So everybody's doing a whole lot of ways to, you know, make sure they meet this LDR. We are experiencing things we've never experienced before. All sorts of, even automated lending, click on your phone and you get a loan and all of that. So we want to be a part of that. We are trying to digitalize our processes at DBN and make it faster for the PFIs to even get access to finance that they will in turn on-lend to the MSMEs. I know I've spoken too much, but of course, it's something that I think you wanted to know. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I mean, the subject of finance, as we all had earlier alluded to, is not something that could be exhausted in an hour or an hour, 20 minutes. We still have more questions coming in. Some of them we think will be better answered by the PFIs themselves. So we know that the next conversation we will be having on financing will also have representatives of the PFIs, because they seem to, everyone here seems to have passed the ball to say, look, we have done our part. It's the PFIs now that we need to ask what is going on. Thank you very much. I still have a hand up here, Mr. Olalekan Alero. Mr. Olalekan Alero. Please, you have just 30 seconds to ask your question. Anything longer than 30 seconds, we will mute your microphone and we will most likely not take your question. So straight to the point, no side commentary, please. So tech host, can we unmute Mr. Olalekan?
Am I good to go?
Please, you are good to go, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Augustine. I'm the Toastmaster. This is your guy from Better Ways. Anyway, my question is, I just want to know if there is particularly any intervention for SMEs that they are specifically into logistics and haulage businesses. So how, if there is, then how do they go about accessing finances?
Okay. So who are we directing the question to, please?
Yeah, I'm directing it to Ajia from CBN.
Okay. Ajia from CBN. Mrs. Amina, are you there?
Yeah.
She's muted. She is on
Yes,
another.
I'm here. I'm
Okay.
here. Yes. All right. Like, you know, I said something about, we have the Micro, Small, Medium Enterprises Development Fund, which is the MSMEDF, that's what we call it. You can access that fund through a participating financial institution. Like I also said earlier, that most of these loans are actually through, all of these loans are actually through the PFI. So you go to your bank and then you access through your bank. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mrs. Amina. Thank you very much. Now, please, if you have any other question, kindly type the question and send it. We will send your question to the faculty members and a response will be sent to you directly. We are pressed for time. It's a working day and most of us have to get back to other engagements. I would want to recognize Dr. Victor Oshadare as he takes us through the next phase, wrap up and some concluding questions. Dr. Victor.
All right. I have been in rapt attention since the beginning of this conversation. This will be my estimation of the whole dimensions that we have had. Very great, priceless, insightful, and mind-blowing. Mr. Bonaventure, thank you so much. Incidentally, you are my in-law. We'll talk offline.
Thank you.
Mrs. Ajia, thank you from Central Bank. You did a very good
Thank
job.
you, sir.
I appreciate all the enterprise caucus members, Femi, Winston, Jay, Freedom, everyone. Raji, Halima, all of you have done well. We are privileged to have these two people here. And you know what bothers a typical Nigerian that come on this kind of platform is they want solutions. So how do we get money? You know, the pedestrian way of thinking, not access to finance, but how do we get money? So what I'm just going to be doing in a few minutes is trying to have a home comment with the two of them on a few things, just like a few clarifications, because most of the questions that are very germane to this discussion has been handled. When Mr. Bonaventure was giving his numbers, I was so delighted. I mean, 133 billion impacting over 100 micro, small, medium businesses is a number that is raising the boil very high. So thank you for that good job that you have done. I mean, as the Chief Operating Officer of the bank, and of course, in the middle of the pivotal of major operational decision, I'm sure you are pushing very hard, and we appreciate you for coming on. All right, but I have this clarification. While you were making your response to a particular question on risk, you were talking about those that were involved in the risk profile. You know, there's a risk of taking a loan from the World Bank. There's a risk of giving a loan to the financial institution. There's a risk between the financial institution and also the end users. Now, I'm aware, I have a little knowledge that the people we are meant to serve to actually achieve the real economic emancipation are on structure. They run on structured business. Now, what is DBN doing to be able to ameliorate this risk and be able to achieve critical mass? Remember, you mentioned that the gap is huge. And so what we are looking for now is numbers. It's numbers, it's outreach. So how much can we affect in 1 year? How much social impact can we make? How much of these people can we emancipate from poverty level and bring them above poverty level? So if we are looking at number and critical mass, it means that we need to do something to the risk. The issue of collateral, the issue of risk that may reduce prevent these SMEs from accessing the funding. CBN has done their job, by setting you up. You have also done your job by also looking for financial institutions that have capacity and competence to disburse this money. But you need to also get involved in ameliorating the risk that can allow people to assess. Because if you say you are going to take care of risk to some extent, we want to see the tangibility of the risk that you are taking care of. And we want to be able to see that, okay, this has impacted on the level at which people can access this finance. And the second one I want to ask, just two questions in one, for you is that in simplest form, sir, how do you harmonize your relationship with all the other structure? There's a SMEDA on one part, there's a Bank of Industry, there's a Bank of Agriculture, there's a NISA. There are all manners of structures, all towards economic emancipation. There's even a NEXIM in one leg. We have all these guys. Do you have a homecoming? Are you talking together? The Microfinance Bank was set up at the beginning to do what everybody is doing now. What went wrong? How are we bringing these people on the same template? How can we move forward? How can we gain more momentum, more vigor? How can we do more by having a homecoming, bringing everybody on board? We are not going to ask people to merge, but do we have a table where everybody come together to look at all of this? How can we make it easy for the end user? Because everything boils down to impact. What is the impact level of Bank of Industry? What is the penetration level of Bank of Agri? What about DBN? What are you doing? I've seen your figures. It's so exciting. You are doing very well. In the economic space. But if I believe that if we pull all these resources together and pull our mandates together, and we are chatting and singing from the same hymn book, I believe that much can be done. So just speak to it. What relations do you have with SMEDA? What do you have with Microfinance Bank? What do you have with Bank of Industry? Are there a meeting point, or everybody is just running in silos and we're just going towards the same goal in the divided attention?
Okay, thank you very much. It was really a very long question, so I hope I'll be able to, answer all of it. But first, you were talking about the risk of the MSMEs themselves. That how can we get them to be able to come to the banks and access loans, and that we should also have a skin in the game. And I'm very happy to tell you that we do have a skin in the game. Like I said earlier in my initial presentation, I said we have 3 mandates. 1, wholesale lending. 2nd, partial credit guarantees. 3rd, technical assistance, which we have expanded to include capacity building for MSMEs. So we realize the fact that MSMEs don't really understand a lot of things. So what have we done? We started doing some training programs from them. Last year, we trained 100 MSMEs at the Lagos Business School, Enterprise and Development Center. And you know the cost of those trainings. We bought it. It's not as if we are telling them to pay. All we say, apply on our website, pitch for yourself, tell us what you do, tell us what you want to do and what you want to see. And we look at it, we let people look at it. We then select some people, and then we go ahead and train them. Currently, we have another one that is built to commence by end of August. The applications are still on. So if you go to our website, you will see how you can access the portal, and you just register. I think it's going to close very soon anyway, maybe by July 22nd or thereabout. So the MSMEs that want to have an opportunity to be trained can go there, and then we'll train them. This year, because of COVID, it's going to be a blended training format where you have online training and then some face-to-face. But before now, we used to do it purely face-to-face. Spend about 3 months, you go to Lagos Business School day by day, and then you get your certificates and come. So what we do at the end of the session is that we invite PFIs to say, okay, these are quality MSMEs that have been trained. Can you assist to give them financing? Additionally, we are going into specific strategic alliances. We are discussing with some state government. About a month or 2 ago, I was also at a webinar meeting with the Kaduna state government. And from after that webinar, we agreed to say, okay, let's partner. So we've been discussing with their microcredit department or agency. And then they are going to bring a list of MSMEs. We are going to train those MSMEs. We are going to then work with a PFI that they are also going to bring, that are willing to take the risk, and then we'll provide the financing. So we are doing all of that, with various state governments that are interested. Then finally, to go to your last question as to how do we harmonize the relationship with all of these other agencies? You said something which I quite like. You said it's all about impact. It's all about impact. We also monitor the impact we create. So we have a department that just look at monitoring and evaluation. Go and check what we have done. All these over 100,000 MSMEs we have impacted. What did we achieve? What did we get? So we actually get people that go sit with them and we find out what we've done. When you talk about relationship with different people, everybody is set up for a purpose. Nexim, for instance, is focused on import and exports. Bank of Agric is focused on Agric. BOI is focused on industrial growth that spans through both MSMEs, large corporates, small corporates, all sorts and everything. Yeah. But at DBN, we're only focused on one thing, MSMEs. We don't go above, we don't go below, and we don't go beyond. So it's clear. Remember what I said, the financing gap in this country today, in fact, all over the world, is so huge that if you like set up 1 million intervention agencies or 1 million commercial bank, it will be difficult to address that need today. So that's what we are working towards. We don't see these other agencies as competitors. We see them as people that are collaborating with us and are providing complementary services. We all meet at one place. As I'm speaking today is the National MSME Award ceremony, which is chaired by the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. These awards are going to be given out to outstanding MSMEs. And at that table, you are going to find almost all the DFIs participating in it. So we meet at various forums, we complement ourselves. We've gone into a partnership with SMIDAN. Remember that SMIDAN is more around capacity building. SMIDAN don't really give out loans to anybody. It's more of capacity building. So we work with SMIDAN. We've signed an agreement with SMIDAN, an MOU with them for us to start building capacity of MSMEs. We relate to, I don't need to talk much. The truth of it is that these relationships have been harmonized and we see ourselves as collaborators. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bona. Just one or two clarification very quickly from my big sister, Mrs. Sajia from Central Bank of Nigeria. I've seen all the efforts that the CBN is doing. I mean, the establishment of NISA MFB is a very good, it's a giant stride for us. And the fund that was given also to be disbursed to alleviate all of this trouble that we are going through, the public health emergency. Now, I have this question and this worry. These structures have been created, they are doing well. The initial plan was a microfinance bank structure that is meant to alleviate poverty and bring about grassroots economic emancipation. Now, these MFBs don't seem to be as much as they should be in the equation of this financial intervention. What went wrong? What can be done? Can we bring them back? You know why I'm asking? Because MFB seems to be regulated properly and they are well structured with all the ratios, all the monitoring, and all the regulatory benchmark guiding them. So I feel that MFB is a potent structure that the Nigerian economy should also look at. I mean, going through the people that are doing financial intervention that can be used to reflect some of this trouble. So I want to know if there is something that CBN is doing to bring back MFBs into the live streams of all of these crusade that we are doing. Because I mean, now the money that went to NISA should have gone to MFBs. But I don't know what went wrong. I'm just curious because I'm sure some MFBs principal promoters are also connected to the webinar and they are looking to how can the CBN also use them for these activities. So is there something that have gone wrong? Is there something CBN is doing? These people are highly regulated, they are well structured, and they are ready for disbursement of these fundings. Is there something, is there a missing link? Is there something that needs to be done? Are there things that need to leave the road for them to be brought back to the mainstream of these intervention activities? Sorry, I don't know whether our sister from CBN is still on. Is she still there?
I am
is she
here.
on?
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, sorry.
And I heard everything you said. I unmuted because I'm in the office and then there's a bit of noise around. I heard everything you said. The money that went to NISL did not go to just NISL, but it went to NISL Microfinance Bank. So, there's the NISL Microfinance Bank, which which was established by the central bank because of the need of microfinance bank to participate in some of these interventions, because we know that they are the grassroots. So most of the development we're hoping to achieve is mostly also at the grassroots. So we established NISL Microfinance Bank, and the monies for some of one of our interventions went to NISL Microfinance Bank because we believe that NISL Microfinance Bank can do a lot. In fact, the credit facility that we first established for this COVID-19, impact of COVID-19, was actually also through the NISL Microfinance Bank. It's a microfinance bank, so the money went to that NISL Microfinance Bank. Now, going to your other concern, the concern you raised about the fact that microfinance banks maybe are not being strengthened. Well, I would say that we actually do a lot of, like you said, we do a lot of regulation regarding the microfinance bank. There's a lot of monitoring. We do examinations, quite a number of them on microfinance banks. And why we do this is because we have realized that over time, people that establish microfinance banks were people that work in microfinance banks were actually poached, or were people that left the commercial banking sector, the deposit money banks, and went into microfinance banking. So what we realized is that somehow the microfinance banks do not, they lose their concept. As they move on, they lose their concept of microfinance banking. So they now invest in huge fixed assets, which erodes their share capital. And apart from that, they still have not been able to delineate their purpose with the commercial banking purpose. And for some of them that actually worked there, they still have that mentality. So part of what the central bank has done to ensure that they look at microfinance banking as it is capacity building. Central bank has introduced capacity building for microfinance banks in collaboration with the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria. They are the administrators of that program. And at the time, I think Central Bank was actually even trying to sponsor, I think, those programs, or they made it in such a way that it was actually cheap for the microfinance banks to be able to participate and then get their certification so that they would understand the concept of microfinance banking. So it's not like the central bank is not looking at a microfinance bank. It's actually looking at microfinance banks. And in almost all those guidelines that have to do with micro, small, medium enterprises, you would actually, or the agribusiness, you would actually microfinance banks are as part of the participating financial institutions, but some of them don't meet the eligibility criteria because, like I said, they don't. Most of quite a number of them. It's sad to say this, but quite a number of them have not been able to really operate successfully. If you're looking at those that operate successfully, you're looking at the likes of Lapo, and I think there was this one Hassal at one time. I don't know whether it's still doing well, but this were microfinance, and Fortis, I think, this were microfinance banks that used to do well because they understood the concept. So, but we're still trying to see that they understand the concept and then understand the concept and then probably use that microfinance bank as a tool to, to probably maybe ginger the economy and make the economy better. That's at the grassroots level. Yes.
Thank you so much. Just before you go, and I say thank you to both of you, are there any very major intervention that we are looking to get in the food system, specifically in the food system, in the agri-value chain? Are there things that are coming on board from the Development Finance Department that you are looking forward to that we should be waiting to see any moment?
Of course, this has actually been on. It's not that it just came on board, but it's actually been on. There's the Anchor Borrowers Program, which is actually for, we have quite a number of commodities that are currently on Anchor Borrowers Program. And we have cassava, we have maize, we have rice, we have cotton, even we have cotton, we have tomato, we have quite a number of, I think we have up to 15 or 14 commodities on that program. So the program is on. We deal with mostly associations of those commodities that have their farmers, bring on their farmers, and then we have off-takers that off-take when those produce are ready for off-taking.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Bonaventure, for your time, your quality time. We appreciate you so much. And also, Mrs. Sajia Amina, I appreciate you so dearly. Thank you for giving us your quality time and investing this time, clarifying all of these questions. I appreciate you. Thank you. I'll hand over to the coordinator.
Thank you very much, Dr. Victor, and thank you, Mr. Bonaventure. Thank you, Mrs. Amina, for your time. Thank you so much for coming online to educate Nigerians and giving us all these insights. I believe that these words have not fallen on deaf ears. We have all taken the information and we will act on them to see that the right people get access and get the right information that would allow them to access the funds they need to scale up their businesses or to start new businesses. I sincerely appreciate you on behalf of the Ruach team. We usually have moments or prep talk, and this is to educate our listeners on a particular subject. So to introduce this segment, I would want to hand over to Halima Raji to introduce our next speaker, who will be giving a pep talk on the laws of sales. Halima, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Winston. Now we're going to have Mr. Femi Joshua give us a pep talk on 48 laws of sales. You know, when you're managing a business, you have different activities. So finance is just one aspect, operations is another aspect. But however, if you don't make a sale, or you can't earn revenue, you can't have income to recover all the costs that you have incurred. So it is very important, either as a business or as an employee, because you're still selling service. It is very important to learn how to make a sale. So
I'll have our closing thoughts from our panelists. So can we have Mr. Bonaventure please just share your closing thoughts with us?
Okay, just to say thank you for allowing me to come and share my presentation with you today. And just to also remind you, if you go to our website, you're going to find a lot more information. There's so much more I could have discussed today that I couldn't talk to. Our website is www.devbank.com. If you also go on our website, I encourage you to go to our integrated and financial report for 2019. It's a very big compilation of everything we've done. You can see, for the people that are interested in impact, you can see the impact that we've done. You can actually find testimonials of various MSMEs that we've also impacted. Thank you so much, and please keep safe and have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bonaventure. Thank you most kindly for your time, and thank you for sharing this morning with us. Let us also take the closing thoughts of Mrs. Amina Suwaid. Mrs. Amina Suwaid.
Right. Okay, I'm here. I always mute,
Yes.
because there's noise in the ears, so I have to unmute me. All right. Thank you for having us on this platform. And I would like to share our website, because most of these guidelines are there. Eligibility criteria is there. That all the requirements are there. You would see what the target group is there once you open those guidelines. So I would encourage people that are interested, participants that are interested, to check on www.cbn.gov.ng. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mrs. Amina. Thank you most kindly for your